Hi everyone, welcome to the recording of the bowling game using C# and Visual Studio for Mac 2017. So in this video I'll show you how to complete the bowling game Kata. Well, first of all, what we have to do is we're going to come to our Visual Studio and come to New Solution. Then come all the way down here to .NET and we'll choose Console Project. And we click Next. And then we got type bowling game, and you can notice that it is stored in our project directory, and it says create a project directory within solution directory, use git for version control, and leave create again to ignore inessential files. So we just create our bowling game project. Okay, so now here we have a program that's a default program that runs a default hello world output. You can see it runs hello world, and press any key to continue. So we got this directory here. So so what we want to do now is that we gotta come over to view and we go choose test layout, which will open up our solution explorer. Now if you notice, this is actually our solution, this is our bowling game project. So the next step is to, let's say, create our, so let's just commit first, initial. So let's commit this as initial commit with default console project, and I'm gonna commit everything here. Oops, sorry, shouldn't be here. It should actually just click here, the initial commit with default project, console project, and I'm gonna commit. So now we have one commit here. So the next thing is what we have to do now is that we are going to add in a unit test library project. So we come over to bowling game solution master, right click, and we're going to say add new project, and we're going to choose over in .NET NUnit library project, and then we're going to click next, and we are going to say right here bowling game tests, and we're going to click create. Okay, now obviously we run all, it works, but of course we need to reference the program here. Okay, so let's write our first test. So notice it's given us a skeleton here. So what we are going to do is run test, create a game. Let's create a game, create game, and we gotta come here and gotta say var game equals to new game. Okay, notice it cannot create the word game because the reason is there is no reference to the bowling game, so it tries to look for the class game but it cannot find it. So how do we go about referencing this one? So what we have to do is that we have to come back to program.cs. We got to rename this as game. Okay, so now we've got this game, and after that under references, okay, notice it has no reference to this project, so we got to come here to references and we got to edit references, and we got to come to projects and we got to say, take this to say that we're going to reference this bowling game project. Okay, now let's see what happens here. And the problem is it still does not reference it, and the reason for that is because in programs, yes, we did not make this a public class. Okay, and it still does not work because why? Because we did not use the call using bowling game. Okay, so we need to use the same namespace as this one. So you say using bowling game. Okay, and then after that we can do this now. So finally we can create a new game. And if we run the bowling game test, create game works. So we've created our first game. So let's add review solution, and we can say that we can commit add an unit project with first test. Oops. Test first, add first unit test to create game. Okay, so run all, works. Okay, so we've done that. So what's the next thing? So if we look at our test, so this is going to be test driven. So the next thing is we got to try to roll a game, and then we got to create our score. So let's roll the game. Okay, and then we've got to say var game equals to new game. And then after that, we call game roll 0. So now notice there's a compilation error. Why? Because there is no roll method in our game. So let's create our roll method. So we'll come here. So we got to say public void roll int pins. Okay, and that's it. So we come over to test.cs, run all, works, but we're going to add in a gutter game. So for int I equals to 0, I smaller than. Now gutter game will be 20 balls, so we got to put 20 balls here, and then I plus plus. Okay, and then we gonna run all. Okay, so it works. And then after that, we're going to assert a score. So you use the assert dot that. Okay, game dot score. Okay, okay. So a game dot score equals to assert that game is equals to 0. Okay, and if we run, oops, sorry, not run, test, run all. Okay, it does not work. Okay, so what we're going to do is that we are going to, okay, we're going to add in a method called public void public int score return 0. And it passes. So let's just review the solution. So we just say modified, so you can see we roll the gutter game here, and we add in two methods, which is roll and score. So over here we are going to commit both of this, add in roll and score method. Okay, so obviously this passes, but it doesn't work because we have got another test to go. So the next one will be public void row 1 row ones. Okay, and you can say var game equals to new game, and then after that we're gonna say int I equals to 0, I smaller than 20, I plus plus game dot row 1, and we are gonna set that game dot score is equal to, now we roll ones all the way, that means we get a pinfall of 2 points per frame, so that's 20 points. Go get here. So let's run this. It fails, and the reason is because we don't even add up the score. So let's just start out by just creating a variable int score equals to 0. So every time we roll, we just add the score, add the pinfall to the score. Score plus equals to pins. That's it. And we're just gonna return score and run all. So it works. So we came out with a different version here. So we got to review the solution. You can see the changes. Test 1, and we just added a variable, and we just got to add the pins and score. So we just got to commit everything. Add and test for 1 pin per row. Okay, so we got 3 tests now. One is create game, roll gutter game, and roll. And let's have a review of a solution. You can see there's create game, var game, new game. You can notice now there's something repeated here, which is always the creation of game. Now what you can do to save on complexity and to make things simple is that we can create a setup procedure. That is a special attribute provided by NUnit, where we can set up any initialization of variables, so they have to initialize it every time we start a game. So we got to come here and we got to say game equals to game, and we got to say setup, and we got to say public void setup game. Okay, and we got to say game equals to new game. So by doing this, we don't even need this anymore actually. So we can just delete this. This one, you can remove this one. And this one goes here. And if we run all, okay, so now it works. Okay, so let's go to version control. And we can see that we refactored everything here to another method, which is to call it setup game. So let's commit, refactor out, new setting up of game. Okay. So after this, let's have our next. Let's continue on. So now notice there's repeated. This for loop's always repeated. The only difference is actually the 0 and 1. So actually this can be refactored out. So let's put this up as row many, void row many, and there are 2 variables that we want to provide as input, which is the number of rows and the value. So int rows and int pins. Okay, so let's just copy of this here. Okay, And over here we got put in roles pins. Okay. And then for over here we can just say role many 20 0. Okay, and over here we can put here role many 21. And let's run our tests again so that we can make sure that we didn't break anything, so it all works quite well. So next thing we're gonna do is that we're gonna test. Okay, so we're gonna test something with which we're gonna do is one of the rules is spares. So what when we roll a spare in our first frame. So let's create another test for that. Test public void roll spare first frame. Okay, so you're gonna say game dot roll. Let's say we get a 9. Game dot roll. Okay, 1. And after that we get ones in every other roll after that. And then we're going to say assert that game dot score is equal to. Now for this one we're gonna get 11 in the first frame. Well, we get 2 points for every subsequent frame after that, so that will make it 18 plus 11 which is 29. Okay, so let's run our test again, and obviously this will fail because, well, it just doesn't calculate the spares. So if we look at our game right now, you can see that actually this form of calculation does not work because we do not save everything in an array or something, so it just keeps on adding. It doesn't know what's the score from the previous one, whether add into the previous frame or anything like that. So what we can do is, what we should do actually, is to store everything in an array and then only come up with our score. So let's just delete everything. So come up with array int. Okay. Pinfall. And the largest size would be 21 pinfalls. If we get we have rolled two balls per frame plus a spare in the last. And to calculate the roll, so instead of storing it inside one variable, we just store it inside the pinfalls. Okay, but what do we put inside here? So we need to have a counter. So let's come roll counter. Okay, and roll counter plus. And then to get a score, we cannot just return score. What we do is that we add go through the whole array and we add them all together. So we got to do this for int I equals to 0, I smaller than pin false dot length I plus plus, and then we got to come up with a variable here, int. Okay, we can use the same variable, int score equals to 0, and then we can say score plus equals to I, pin false I, and then we'll return score. Okay, now we've done this, so let's go to our test. Okay, we're gonna just comment this out first. Okay, then comment it out by pressing command slash and just run all these tests to make sure it works. Again, so all this works. After we add it, then I'm gonna change this, and it does not work for this one. So let's fix the program now. Now the thing is that once we get a spare, so what we have to do is that we've got to do a calculation instead. So we've got to say if pin false I plus pin false I plus 1 equals to 10, then we're going to say score plus equals 10 plus pin false I plus 2, which is one more ball. Okay, and then we're going to say I plus equals to 1. See whether this works. Oops, no, it's not supposed to be 1, it's supposed to be 2, because we add 2 balls here. Do we get it correct? No, why? If plus score, we gotta do else here, else is correct. Correct, this was supposed to be 1. So you can see that this does not work, because why? Because we're always checking another thing outside. So pin I plus I was 1, score equal I plus 10, then does not work. So why does that go? So line 25, so it keeps on going to pin false length. So you can see that this does not work at all. Okay, so why? Because we cannot use pin false to add, so we got to use frames. So over here, instead of I, so let's use int I equals to 0. Okay, and let's call this frame. So this does not work at all. Substitute frame smaller than 10 frame. Okay. Okay. So again here, score equals to pin false plus I plus pin false I plus 1. So we assume that we got add every frames together. Okay, so we always add 2 frames together, and this will pass. Okay, so okay, so let's just add a few more frames. So let's try one more test, see whether this works. Test public void roll spares every frame. So we got say roll many, so let's assume we got roll 21 and assert that uh, 5 game dot score is equal to, so if you look at game dot score equals to, so we can put here as, so if you get 5 every ball, so that would mean 15 points per frame. So 15 points per frame, so it will be 150. Let's run everything. Okay, roll spares every frame. So let's go to version control. Okay, so roll many, and so I'll just commit everything. Spare calculation. Does it work? We don't know, but it seems to work. So let's just add another few more tests. Let's add in another one test for test public void roll perfect game. Roll many. So we got roll, perfect game would have a total of 12 strikes. Set that score is equal to 300. Let's run everything. Of course, it's got fail. So let's come back here. So how would we fix this? So notice that if we get 10 for everything, so we got to add another check. If pinfalls I equals to 10, and then else here score plus equals to 10 plus, so we get pinfalls I plus 1 plus pinfalls I plus 2. I plus equals to 1. So let's see whether this works. And it works. Okay, so let's try another test. Public role. Let's try 9 ones all the time. And this one you can't use the roll many, so we have to use game.roll9 game.roll1. Okay, and we got to do it 10 times for int I equals to 0, I smaller than 10, I plus plus, and set that game.score is equal to now if we get 9-1 and then every frame and then after that game.roll 9, assuming that we get a spare, and got to do some defensive programming by putting curly brackets. So assume we do that, so we get 19 per frame, so this will be 190. Let's see whether this works. Oops. So roll 9-1 spares doesn't work and something's wrong. Okay, so we get, and it's not just roll 9-1 spares. Okay, so we expected 190 but we get 150, so what's wrong? So here we got, so from here, for pin falls 10 we add, and then we go, let's look at this. If pin falls I and I plus 1 equal to 10, score equals to I plus 10 plus pin falls I plus 2. So actually perhaps this one should be replaced by 2 because we're supposed to run all. Okay, so you can see that this works, but how sure are we that this program is working? And I suspect there's something wrong here, because why do I have to put a 2 here and there's only a 1 here? So let's create a test that will make it fail. So let's create another test. Maybe what is wrong with the test here, which is roll space first frame, is that it always adds a 1, and because it's always 1 all the way, it doesn't work very well. Okay, so let's try something else. How can we make something wrong? Why does it always give you perfect score? Okay, so let's try something else, and we've got to try something that's different. Maybe we've got to try a normal game. Okay, so let's go online to find any normal game score. Okay, so let's go online to the internet. And we're going to say bowling score example. And let's take something like this, for example. And we're going to put this inside our game. So roll game.roll 10, game.roll 9, game.roll 1, game.roll 5, game.roll 5, game.roll 7, game dot roll 2, game dot roll 10, game dot roll 10, game dot roll 10, game dot roll 9, game dot roll 0, game dot roll 8, game dot roll 2 because it's spare, game dot roll 9, game dot roll 1, and of course this is the last frame, so game dot roll 10. Let's make sure our data is correct. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 10 9 spare 9 9 5 sorry 5 5 7 2 strike strike strike, which is the turkey. 9 dash means missed. 8 spare 9 spare 10. So then we assert that the score is assert that game dot score is equal to 187, and it dies. And the reason is because I knew from looking at this is, if I notice the I 187 but it got 168 is because it did not add another 2 here. So let's fix this bug here and let's run it all again, and it works. So you got typical game, and because this problem was that it only advanced it 1, okay, so advance it another pinfall. So doing it this way, we can actually write a program and make changes and make sure that our program is working properly, okay, because it was not adding properly the pinfall here. So what else can we do with this program? Now we know it works. What we can do is that one of the things that we do in programming is that we want to make things simpler and easier to understand. For example, pinfalls I equals to 10. That's very hard to understand to a programmer who's just looking at what does I equal to 10. So what we can do is that we can refactor it out into another method. But let's just review our solution and commit. So we added in spares, perfect game, and of course we can add in some version control, can review. Okay, so we added in 2 spares and perfect game. 10 and change the spares. So commit. And we're going to come here and say handle spares and strikes, and we got commit. So the next part we got to do is that we got to refactor out our pinfalls here. So how we got to do this? So notice pinfalls I equal to 10. So what we can do is that we can actually create a method to check whether it's a strike. So let's come here. We got to say bool is strike. Okay, and we got to ask whether this is the correct, this frame is correct. So frame index, come here and can say pinfalls frame index equals to 10. So come here, return. Okay, and we got just so exactly this thing here. and we got to say is strike I. That's it. Let's run again. Yep, still works. What about pin for I plus 10? So let's come here. We gotta just come here and just say bool is spare int I. Copy and paste this here. Return. That's it. And we gotta come over here. Is spare I. That's it. And everything's working. Let's rename this variable to frame index. Rename everything. And it works. Okay, so let's just review of solution. So you can see that we refactored out checking of strike and spare. So what else can we do to clean up our code? Okay, notice this pin force I plus I plus 2. Instead of doing this, we can refactor this out and come out with a bonus. Int strike bonus for int I. And we can say return. Okay, still works. All my tests pass. Okay, of course we haven't actually called it yet, so let's delete everything here. Strike bonus I. Run all. Okay, so I'm going to rename this, by the way. Rename is to frame index. Run all again. Okay, so strike bonus, and let's also calculate for pinfall bonus, which was for spare bonus. So come here, int spare bonus, int I. We gotta take this, return this one. Okay, and we gotta delete this. I. Okay, so if we don't like I, we can always rename this variable as, okay, hold on, just go do a version control first. Let's just check it into our source code management system, and we're going to say refactor out spare and strike bonus calculation. Okay, what else can we do? So we can just add all these numbers together. Okay, so if we get a strike, we only need to move our pin counter by 1, and if not, we just put it to move two balls in front. So if we don't like the number I, let's refactor this and rename. And we gotta call this frame index. And we gotta save and run, test everything. And build successful or test pass. So we can actually do version control, and we can see all the changes here. So all the eyes and everything, so we change it to frame index, and we got commit, rename I to frame index, commit, so it's easier to read our program. Okay, so tests and everything works, and there we have our bowling game done and tested. So the great thing about tests is that we can slowly develop a program and manage our fears. So we go step by step, making sure that every step we go along the way, the old tests do not break. So in some ways we are doing regression testing, so everything that works previously keeps on working. Thank you very much. And if you have any comments, just feel free to leave them in the video below.